1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience domestic abuse in their lifetime, and nearly half of survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina started the Purple Leash Project to help eliminate one of the many barriers domestic abuse survivors face: a lack of pet-friendly domestic violence shelters. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters across the country, so abuse survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to get involved.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chasing Excellence. How the heck are you, Ben?
I'm doing great, Patrick. Thank you.
We are going to talk about nutrition today. We haven't actually done an episode on nutrition for a bit. And I remember you put up, or CrossFit New England put up a video of you just kind of doing a talk to a class about eating clean and eating light and keeping it as simple as that. So that's my first question to you is, can you just kind of explain what you mean by eat clean and eat light?
So to keep it super simple, which is what it should be. I think that nutrition gets so overcomplicated, and understandably, it's a complex thing of putting edible substances in through your mouth and turning it into life. That's an amazing thing that's hard to conceptually understand. Having said that, what we need is a working understanding to help us to make decisions when we get to the breakfast table, when we get to the office and we get to a restaurant. We have to understand not necessarily the molecular structure of gluten, but what should I order off the menu? Let's try to make this as simple as possible. This is us, the frameworks guys. Like we love to break this down in framework. The simplest framework I can work with is eat clean, eat light.
Okay.
It doesn't get more simple than that. Honestly, every diet, when you hear diet, think nutritional strategy, a way of eating, essentially leans into one of those two principles. That's it. There's really only two. And you go like, well, isn't that a ripoff of real food, not too much, mostly plants? It is, except the mostly plants, there's a lot of people that have a lot of success eating no plants. So if we're to truly take out all of the biases, I'm not against plants. You know me. I have vegetables.
Yep.
I have more vegetables than I know what to do with. I believe in them. But I'm also, because I like vegetables and the way they make me feel, doesn't mean that it's inherently as close to a truth as we can, because there's other people that have equally as much success eating very little vegetables or even no vegetables. The reason for these two pillars, eat clean, eat light, is that they are the only two that stand up across all research and all strategies.
Got it. So let's maybe define in your mind what each one of those means. What do you mean when you say clean? Let's start with that one.
Okay, so I'm going to keep this purposely very actionable. If you're trying to eat clean, that means is step one is to essentially think of foods on a spectrum. On one side of the spectrum, we have ultra processed. Things that you can't even figure out where the heck that they actually are. Things like a Twix bar, a Twinkie, or cotton candy. Like, what the heck is that even? It's not even a thing. Where did that start as?
Yep.
Right? So that's ultra processed. And then above that, you have processed foods like potato chips. That they came from a potato, but it's been really processed. And then above that, you have lightly processed foods, which are things like cold cuts, right? You know it's a meat, but it's not straight off the bone. There's something to make it into that beautiful oval thin shape. And then there's clean, which is things that came, basically the perimeter of the supermarket, fruits, vegetables, clean meats, and all the rest. And then there's ultra clean. And ultra clean being straight from you grew it in your backyard.
Yep.
And in your backyard, you have great soil.
Yep.
You went out into clean waters and caught a salmon in a river that's glacier fed. Like, that's ultra clean. Not Atlantic farm raised. By the way, Atlantic, that's their code word. People should know this. Hopefully we'll get into this in this conversation. You have to understand a lot of the code. Atlantic salmon is code for farm raised. which is code for a fish farm, which is code for bad for you. I would put that as a processed food. I mean, it's probably it's somewhere in there, but we're not yet into the clean category. And then there's ultra clean, right? So that's the way I think about clean.
So just to make sure I'm getting it. So it's kind of like that spectrum where there's ultra processed, lightly processed, clean, ultra clean. If you had to, like, everything is a shade of gray, but like if you needed to come up with the stops along that journey, would those be them?
Yeah, and you could probably subdivide that into 30 other subdivisions.
Right.
But I don't think you'd do yourself any further favors.
Doing it any more granular than that. Okay.
Right. So let's get to the actionable.
Yep.
When you sit down for a meal, look at your meal and classify it on that spectrum. That's job number one. How close to the, in my mind, the right side of the spectrum are you? It's a bell-shaped curve, right? Like very few people, I shouldn't say, probably in our community, yes. Very few people are probably eating the ultra, ultra clean, and very few people in our community are eating the ultra, ultra processed.
Yep.
We're falling somewhere in the middle. How awesome would it be if over the course of a year, some percentage of your meals just start to swing towards the right a little bit, and that bell-shaped curve started to move a little bit. Your health goes up. Maybe we should back up a little bit just there. Why nutrition at all? Nutrition is one of our 5 factors for health, wellness, longevity, kicking ass into our 90s. And here's the way to think about that. On this clean and light spectrum, if you eat clean, what that means is you're getting more vitamins, minerals, nutrients, fiber. You can go down the whole list, right? Antioxidant, all these things. You're getting more of the good stuff per calorie. Your body operates on that good stuff. And when I mean your body, I don't just mean your muscles. It's not just about the macronutrients. It's not just about protein, carbs, and fats. It is about the micronutrients too. The micronutrients are the things that determine things like inflammation, things like how fast you age. Aging is just oxidation, antioxidants. You have 13 systems in your body, from your immune system to your cardiovascular system to your musculature to your central nervous system. There's your reproductive system. Those systems run on nutrients. It's important that we understand how vital clean eating is to health. Now, that can be a little bit different than performance. If we're truly talking about performance, if we're talking about an ultra marathon runner, if we're talking about a CrossFit Games athlete, the more important thing there is first calories, which we'll get to in a second, but secondarily is macronutrient breakdown. Because depending on what type of activity you're pursuing, you need the appropriate levels of fuel. For the average gym goer, like you, like me, like most people listening to this podcast, that's not the case. It's not so much about the macronutrient breakdown. That doesn't matter. What does matter is that you eat light, less calories, and that you eat clean. You can skip over the macronutrient thing. It doesn't matter. And this is why it doesn't matter if you're super high carb or you're super high fat, super high protein. That stuff doesn't matter if you have these other 2 principles in place and you have a really high nutrient density to your eating protocols.
Let's stick on clean. We'll get to light in a minute. But let's get a little bit more practical, because I know you wanted to do that with eating clean. So what's the best way to do that? Let's talk about breakfast. Let's talk about lunch. Tell me what clean actually looks like.
Because that should be what this podcast is about. Not the talking about carbs, protein, not talking about micronutrients, phytochemicals, and all that stuff. Not talking about, it should be, eggs and avocado or whole wheat and kashi. It should be that, right? Okay, so here is for the eat clean. It's the simplest way to do this. It takes a tiny bit of effort, but what you need to do is turn the food over that you're about to eat and look at the nutrition label on the back. And what you're looking for is one of 3 things. You're looking for an obvious one, any form of sugar. And again, you have to know the code, because they figured out that people are looking for sugar, so they call it other stuff now. Evaporated cane juice, pure fruit juice, honey, agave, molasses, maple syrup. They've called it maltodextrin. They're calling it all these other things other than sugar because they know people are on the lookout for that. You have to know the code. You have to be a detective, and you're looking for sugar. So the first thing you need to do is look at the ingredient list. Can you find sugar? If you can, the higher it is up the list, the more processed it is. Okay, so then the next thing you're gonna look for is any form of flour. And again, they know people are looking for this, so they call it funny things like enriched wheat flour, 100% organic flour, coconut flour. Like I'm saying, coconut sugar is sugar. Coconut flour is flour. Almond flour is like, look for these things. There's no such thing as paleo brownies, right? We're trying to stay away from that. The more we stay away from it, the more clean we're eating.
Yep.
So now we have two things to look for. We're looking for sugar and we're looking for some form of flour. And then the third one you're looking for is oils. Any oils other than avocado, olive oil, or coconut oil. Coconut oil. Those three are okay. When we have our breakfast, that's what we're looking for. And we're trying to get as little of that stuff as we can. That gets us from processed up to clean. To get to ultra clean, you have to really care a lot and be a detective. Essentially, to get from clean to ultra clean, it's a matter of not shopping at the supermarket. It's about sourcing. You have to know where the food is coming from. So you tell me, what's a normal breakfast?
I would say a normal breakfast for somebody in our audience might be oatmeal, a piece of fruit, and 2 eggs, something like that.
Cool. Okay, love that. And that's a great breakfast.
Yep.
We got a great breakfast.
Yep.
Now, someone in our audience that might have a relative that is eating something like Special K,
Yep.
whole wheat toast, orange juice, and a Nutri-Grain bar.
Yep.
And maybe like a Danyan yogurt. Like that's a pretty healthy, a normal community would see that as a normal, healthy breakfast.
That's somebody trying.
So that's somebody trying. They're not stopping at Dunkin' Donuts and getting a Boston crawler and a regular.
Yep.
A crawler and a regular and, the dunked dude. So that person is really trying.
Yep.
We got a Nutri-Grain bar, a Danyan yogurt with fruit on the bottom, maybe a bagel or a piece of toast, and some Special K cereal. Okay, Special K cereal. What's going to be super high on that list?
Sugar,
the flour.
Flour, yeah.
That's the flour one. Even if it's zero sugar.
Yeah.
It might have other stuff too, like soy, but it's going to be super high on the flour. The yogurt. You wouldn't think of this, but the Danyan yogurt is going to be super high in the sugar. The bagel, or the toast, it's made of flour. The orange juice, it's 100% sugar. It's not a terrible breakfast because they're trying, but this is what I feel bad for, the people trying that don't know the code. You got to understand that we're trying to avoid those three things for eating clean. We're avoiding flour, we're avoiding sugar, we're avoiding bad oils. So, and then the Nutri-Grain bar. Nutri-Grain bar is going to have all three.
Yep.
It's going to have sugar, it's going to have flour, and it's going to have the crappy oils.
Yep.
So crappy oils is things like, obviously, vegetable oil. And they make them all sound really good, right? Vegetable oil, grapeseed oil, sunflower oil. There's probably 4 dozen really, really bad oils. Oh, here's another tapioca syrup is one that people put in there a lot because it sounds kind of fancy. Yeah. That's sugar. Bad.
I did a quick search while you were talking about sugars, and the first couple of results were like the 56 common names of sugar, and then there's other ones like the 257 names for sugar. So somewhere between 50 and 300
they
different
figured it
things.
out. They're hiding it. And they're starting to do it with oils and flour as well.
Yep. So that's step one, is to get a sense of sugar, flour, and oils. Is there anything else as it relates to eating clean that is maybe a good measure, a good way to say, okay, where am I on the spectrum? Beyond just those three, or beyond thinking about just those three things?
Yep. So this is for our audience. That gets everyone to essentially like clean. The middle.
Yeah.
That gets everyone to clean.
Yep.
Yeah. They can see. I guess you're like, you're eating clean. I think your breakfast was eggs,
a piece of fruit, and some oatmeal.
Love it.
Yep.
Right. Love it. That's phenomenal. That's awesome. Okay. So now to move for our audience that are like, they don't just want to live to 90. They want to be doing a sub 3-minute Fran at 90. How are we going to get there?
Yep.
That takes effort, just like a sub-minute 3 takes effort. You don't just get there.
Yep.
And the way you get there is by, as we talked about, recognizing the sourcing.
Yep.
So what we're trying to do there is, where do the eggs come from? Just because there's a picture of a farm on the carton doesn't mean that it's good. Unfortunately, just because it says organic doesn't mean it's good. So this becomes like, to get to ultra clean, they're either your eggs, like from your chickens in your backyard, or you're sourcing them from a trusted place where you know the chickens are running in the wild, eating worms, seeds, grubs in the grass and in sunlight, and have space to run free and roam, and they're not in an industrial farm setting.
Got it.
So that gets us to the peak. That's where we're trying to get to.
Where would you say, because the distance between, at least in my mind, the distance between ultra processed to clean, like that's manageable. Like closing that gap is relatively manageable.
Yeah, but Patrick, it's manageable for you because you've done it.
Right.
It seems like for somebody that's never done this before, they're like, wait a minute, I can't just stop at 7-Eleven. I can't get Lunchables for my kid.
Yep.
It's because it's your norm.
Yep.
It's the same thing to edge up to the next one. Maybe you don't shop at the supermarket. Maybe you need to order your food.
Right.
Maybe you need to find a farmer's market.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was alluding to, which is that logistically, if you're going to a place and getting most of your food at the grocery store, you could still go to that same grocery store and make slightly different decisions and move from, at least move from processed to clean without adjusting your life too much, right? To me, the transition from clean, which is kind of what a lot of people, especially our listeners, are living in, to ultra clean feels like, to me, a much bigger leap. But do you find that that's not the case? From getting chicken at the grocery store to meeting a farmer and getting chickens from him?
So I think of it as moving from ultra processed to clean.
Yep.
You're moving from Skittles and Twinkies and Ho-Hos and Coca-Cola to clean, to your breakfast that you just mentioned.
Yep.
That's massive.
Yep, agreed.
That is a huge difference in every form and fashion. I think it's a smaller change to go from the breakfast you labeled, the eggs and, I keep on forgetting it.
Fruit and
oatmeal.
Yep.
Oh, fruit and oatmeal.
Yeah.
To go from that to, do you know where your fruit came from? Do you know where your eggs came from?
Cool. Got it.
It's just that you've done the other change. So this one seems big.
Yep. Maybe that's it. Okay, so let's go back. So that was eat clean. Unless you want to talk more about clean, obviously I'm happy to. But if not, we can dive into
I think it's really important for people understand the biggest thing here is to look at the ingredients.
Yep.
So it's the difference of regular Skippy peanut butter, which is going to, number 2 ingredient is going to be hydrogenated vegetable oil or sugar.
Yep.
Both terrible, versus a natural peanut butter, which is going to have peanuts and salt.
Yep.
That's the difference. That is from processed to clean. That's what we're asking people to do across the board.
Okay, let's just take a 2-minute break to say thanks to a few sponsors, and we'll continue this conversation. We're brought to you this time around by 8 Sleep, the innovative company revolutionizing the way you sleep. Head over to 8sleep.com/excellence to get up to $600 off your Pod 4 Ultra purchase when bundled. That deal is good until December 11th, and it is the best we may ever see, so do not miss out if you've been wanting to get yourself an 8 Sleep. Let's talk about the Pod 4 Ultra, the ultimate sleep optimization system that could change your nights forever. This isn't just a mattress cover, it's a game changer with advanced temperature regulation from 55 degrees Fahrenheit to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. That's warm. It helps you sleep better by adapting to your body's needs. Imagine gaining an extra hour of sleep every single night. Plus, if snoring is a problem, the pod automatically adjusts to help reduce it, ensuring a peaceful night for you and your partner. The pod also tracks vital metrics like heart rate and respiratory rate, giving you insights into your sleep patterns without any devices to wear. Remember, to take your sleep to the next level, visit 8sleep.com/excellence for that limited time, up to $600 savings off your Pod 4 Ultra purchase today. We're also brought to you by the iconic Defender series of vehicles, a vehicle engineered to meet challenges head-on and reimagined for a new generation of explorers. Design your Defender at LandRoverUSA.com and explore their full lineup. So much of what we want to do can seem impossible. What are your grand ambitions, your greatest goals? Believe it or not, the fact that it feels impossible is a good thing, because the highest achievers among us are those who keep striving for something more. And it's those people who embrace the impossible. There's a vehicle for those adventurers. It's called the Defender. With legendary capability both off-road and on, the Defender offers modern design and robust materials that exude confidence. Whether you're navigating city streets or exploring the great outdoors, the Defender is built for those who seek adventure. Remember, there's a family of vehicles for the Defender, the 90, the 110, and the 130, ensuring you have the perfect fit for your journey. Explore the entire Defender lineup at LandRoverUSA.com to learn more. Okay, let's jump back into this conversation. So let's talk about eat light. What do you mean by that? What does that look like? We can maybe do the same thing. We can get into a meal or two to use as examples, but just high level, what does that mean?
It means eating less. Mm-hmm. It's a challenge because all the good tasting stuff that's out there is so calorie laden and food is everywhere. You used to be able to fill up your car at a gas station and not be bombarded with all this temptation.
Yeah.
You used to be able to go to the office supply store and walk through the checkout aisle without having to say no to Twizzlers, gummy lifesavers, combos, and everything. Like crap food is everywhere. Here's the helpful part. As you lean farther into principle 1, eat clean, by definition, you're going to have less calories coming in.
Yep.
And that's really, maybe I should start there. Eat less means eat less calories.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is a different conversation with somebody with an eating disorder.
Yep.
This is a different conversation for people in special populations. This is a different conversation for elite athletes. This is for the otherwise healthy person trying to make changes in their life so that they don't have to then get off medication, so that they can have more productivity in their life, less sick days, live longer, and so on. In those populations, eating less calories, and again, I'm not talking about malnourishment. I'm talking about moving from excess calories to maintenance calories, the appropriate amount. And when we do this, there's a whole bunch of different strategies that people use to put into place. And this is kind of where the other diet things come into place. And it's what works for you. Strategy number 1 for Eat Clean is read the labels, look for those 3 things. Here's it for Eat Light. Figure out the strategy that works well for you. Is that time restricted eating, aka intermittent fasting? Is it macros? Is it calorie counting? Is it food journaling? Is it weighing and measuring? You fill in the blank of what works for you because there's nothing wrong with any of it. I'll say what I do, which works really well for me, is time restricted eating. I don't like to call it intermittent fasting because fasting is when you haven't eaten for a day. I do eat dinner, social with the family, normal. After dinner, that's when I have my last thing, usually done by 7 or 7:30 or so, and I don't eat again the next day until about noon. Sometimes that's 1, sometimes it's 11:30, but it's nothing more than skipping breakfast. When I first heard about intermittent fasting about 10, 11 years ago, I thought that not eating for that time was the benefit because the way I learned about this was like it allows your body to self-regulate and it can do some autophagy, whatever that word is, cleaning out of the cells.
I can't pronounce it either.
So it can give yourself get out of that post-digestive state and maybe. What really works is that you're eating less calories. You're skipping a meal. Because when I first learned about it, I took that other meal and pushed it into the shorter window. And I ate the same amount of calories in a short amount of time. So I still had my 3 meals. I just did one at noon, one at 4, and one at 7. That's not what this is. This is literally skipping a meal. So you are literally eating lighter. That is the principle. You are eating less calories. I think that most people would be shocked at how many calories they need to thrive. Not special populations, not malnourishment, not eating disorders, normal people. Eating a little bit less is healthier for you. If we're carrying around excess body fat, that is strongly correlated with disease states. So allowing the shortened eating window works really well for someone of my temperament, my mindset, which I'm very good with like structure and discipline. Other people can just do it other ways, which is weighing and measuring throughout the day, or they do something where there's smaller plates and no seconds. No snacking is a huge one. Obviously, no desserts eliminates a lot. people have a hard time understanding what the real trouble is with the Western diet. And it's basically overconsumption of those first three things I talked about.
Yep.
So how can we eliminate those? This is just two strategies for the same thing. Eliminate them and also eat less of them. And the biggest thing, if you're trying to do something, eat 3 good meals, don't snack, don't have seconds, don't have dessert.
Mm-hmm.
That in and of itself is going to solve 70% of your nutrition stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Eat 3 good meals. What I mean by that is no ultra processed,
Yep.
right? Normal meals that our community would normally deem. If you want to have a sandwich, okay, have a sandwich. Like, I'm not saying not have a sandwich.
Yep.
3 good meals, no seconds, no snacks, no desserts, no drinking your calories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We do that and we are far down the rabbit hole.
We've talked a lot about setting up the environment to allow for success, especially, and I think it's especially powerful when it comes to nutrition. What other strategies, I love that. Time restricted is a great strategy if that works for you. The 3 meals, no snacking is a great set of rules that is doable. Don't bring it into the house is certainly a good rule of thumb as well. Anything else as it relates to the practicality of a lunch? What does lunch look like? Because one of the things that I think is possible, and you alluded to it a little bit when you said, well, before I cut the hours down, but I didn't cut down what I was eating. I just jammed it into, which I've been guilty of as well. How do you recommend folks fight against looking for loopholes in the rules that you've set up for yourself? Okay, I'm only eating 2 meals now, but they're massive, right? Maybe that didn't quite solve the problem. Maybe it just changed the problem. Anything else to look out for as it relates to this eating light in our modern food environment to justify acting in a way that you're actually trying to curb against?
Yep. Yeah, so let's go meal by meal.
Sure.
For breakfast.
Yep.
Here's the biggest thing with breakfast is get some protein in.
Yep.
Like, that's the biggest thing with breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Try to eliminate what most people do, which is the flour one.
Yep.
The wheat. Like it's you're gonna get so many calories for very little nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the biggest one for breakfast. Work for protein. For lunch, trade out your meatball sub for a salad with protein on it.
Mm-hmm.
That should be lunch. That should be everyone's lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Trade out like salad with a protein. If you want to go ultra clean, cool, but we're not even there. Like, just salad with a protein on it. If you're going out to a restaurant, it's all, look at the salads. Like, and just salad with a protein on it.
Yep.
The trick there, if you're trying to really pay attention, is the salad dressings. The salad dressings are super high in crappy oils and sugars. I should say super high in sugars. There is a fair amount of sugar in them, upwards of 6 grams per serving, some 9. And then there's really crappy oils. So that's why it actually is worth it to pay for a higher quality salad dressing that's not soybean oil, canola oil, and pay for one that has avocado oil in it, or olive oil as well. If you're at a restaurant, olive oil, vinegar, salt, and pepper.
Yep.
Maybe even throw a little bit of mustard in. It's totally cool.
Yep.
Mustard's just a seed.
Yep.
That's a great salad dressing. Okay, and then dinner. If you're out to eat, get your entree, except ask for double veggies. Instead of French fries, ask for your swordfish, steak, half a chicken breast, whatever it is, with double veggies. And you're good. That's the eating out part. The other hack is the more that you can eat at home and cook your own food, the better.
Yep.
Because now you're in control of what oils you're cooking with, what oils are going on your food. Are they sneaking in the sugar? Because they are. Sugar tastes good.
Yep.
They want you to come back.
Yep.
They don't care if you get sick 30 years from now because you've been eating at their restaurants every day. They want you to come back every day for the next 30 years. So those are some small, like, breakfast, get protein, lunch, salad with protein. Watch out for the salad dressing. Dinner, double veggies with a protein. Even better, don't order out, cook it yourself. And then for snacks, fruit and a piece of protein is super satisfying. So my snack yesterday, I usually don't snack, but yesterday I was very hungry. I had a lot of chicken breast. I probably had like 12 ounces of chicken, so almost a pound of chicken. and a peach. And that was my snack.
Yep.
It's super satisfying. It tastes good. If you want to dip it in some healthy salad dressing or something like that, totally cool.
What, as it relates to eating light, what are the risks?
Let me get back to, in terms of how else, the eating light strategy, pick one of the mainstream diets that you like. Certain ones work for certain people. And I like time restricted eating. That works really well for me, combined with paleo. So that's like meaning just eating real foods.
Yep.
That to me is like, that works so well with me. Now, other people might do much better on a carnivore diet. But carnivore does these two things. You're going to be eating relatively clean. There's no ultra processed on carnivore. There's no flour, no sugar, no oils, depending on where you get your meat from. Like, how much chicken can you actually eat? 4, 5, 6,000 calories of chicken? I don't think so. That's why it works.
Yep.
Same thing with a whole food diet. Like, if that works for you, that works for you. So any one of these prescriptions, they're not bad. And all the infighting between the camps is ridiculous because they're all just trying to do, to some form or fashion, some degree of specificity, get you to eat clean or eat light.
2 questions on either one of these, and I'll ask both of them so you can answer either one of them, both of them, whatever you prefer. On the eat clean, there have been folks who make the argument that there is no such thing as dirty food. Like, there's no bad food. It's the amount of it that you're eating, right? And so my question to you is, where do you fall in the vilifying of Skittles or fill in the blank? Like, do you consider that quote unquote bad? So that's question 1. And the question 2 is for Eat Light is, where is the danger of taking that too far? I guess is the question of starving yourself or trying to starve yourself, which isn't really any different than fill in the blank diet where it's really restrictive and you can do it for 30 days, but after that you kind of gorge because you're starving, right? And so just those kind of nuanced questions I'm curious about.
Okay, so the first one is there's no such thing as a bad food.
Yeah.
It's all about just having the appropriate amount of calories.
Yep.
It depends on how much you're burning. Mm-hmm. You actually can out-train a bad diet. So the people that are saying it doesn't matter, Skittles or whatever, as long as you're getting the right, that's for performance because they're playing the macronutrient game. Mm-hmm. What they're doing is they're exercising so much. A games level athlete is exercising so much that as the food comes in, it's immediately converted to a fuel and being used up. So it doesn't have a chance to turn into inflammation. It doesn't have a chance to be turned into fat stores. It doesn't have a chance to go and turn into arthritis. But for most of us that are training an hour a day, that is not the case. Mm-hmm. Our body is made up of 13 systems that run on nutrients. If you're having Skittles and honeydew donuts, you're getting no nutrients.
Yep.
Your system is going to break down. It is a nutrient game more so than a macronutrient game. The other people are playing the macronutrient game. They need to make sure they're getting a certain amount of protein, carbs, and fats. We should ignore that. Mm-hmm. We need to get in a certain number of nutrients. It's a different game. It is completely for us about the quality of our food.
Okay. And then the second question was, how do you make sure that eating light doesn't translate to eating so little that it's unsustainable? That I can do it for a couple of weeks. I'm eating light, but now I have to overcompensate because I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, this is a little bit of the, are you a dummy or not? like it's that. Honestly, and the reason you don't know you're a dummy because it's your ego that's eating away at you.
Yep.
That's what's happening. Is you've identified with this certain image, identity, like I am this type of person or I need to be this type of person. There's something in your mind that's causing you to be an idiot. It's overriding your brain system and causing you to do stupid stuff. So for the people that are not there, this isn't the conversation because they'll know it. Like, I don't feel as good. Like, I'm really hungry all the time. By the way, hunger's not bad. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be hungry all the time. Mm-hmm. When I do my intermittent fasting, I'm hungry almost every single day.
Yep.
That's okay. Hunger is a result of the hormone ghrelin. Ghrelin is a health promotion hormone. This idea of we should never be hungry is so asinine. It's come from the men's fitness and shape magazines who are there to promote more and more and more snack foods. That's what they're doing. Now, you call them supplements if you want. They're snack foods.
Yep.
That's what they're trying to do, is get you to snack. So what they said is never be hungry. In other words, buy more of the stuff we're selling, buy more of the stuff we're selling. That's like saying if you want to work out, you should never sweat. You should never have a high heart rate. You should never have sore muscles. Like, if you want to make change, you're going to get uncomfortable. If you want to lose weight, you're going to be uncomfortable. You are going to be hungry. Guess what? That hunger is actually healthy. This is a good thing. Now, to your point, there's a place where it tips over to where it's not healthy. Just like going for a run is healthy, but running 300 miles a week is not. That's common sense. When your muscles and knees start to break down and you can't walk normally, you've run too far. When you're so hungry, you have a short temper, you can't sleep well, your workouts and performance go down, you've tipped over. You're not doing it well. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say it's hunger. Hunger is the issue. It's when you literally, your words, like you said, when you tip. You just got to find out where that is yourself, just like everyone in our community experimenting with their training. Whoa, I went too hard, too fast yesterday. I'm way too sore. Now I know my limits. Same thing with the nutrition stuff. I only ate 1,000 calories yesterday. That is way too little. I was so grumpy. I didn't sleep. I had no energy in the afternoon. That is way too little. So next time, let's try it with 1,500, see what happens.
Last question as we wrap up. What you just said triggered an interesting thought for me, which is something we obviously have talked about a lot. Embedded in this idea of eating clean and eating light is introducing awareness to something that oftentimes we are pretty unaware of. Like, oh, where did the cookies go? I ate the whole thing. How did that happen? To me, that's, and maybe it's better as a question, as we've talked about before, awareness is often the place to start, right? Where do you find folks are failing at being as aware as they need to be in order to say, could this meal be cleaner? Could this meal be lighter? Do I need this meal, etc.? To me, it starts with the awareness that this is just kind of what we're aiming for. But where else does awareness or self-awareness come into play as it relates to this particular strategy of eat clean and eat light?
Absolutely. I love it. It does start with awareness. It's everything that those three guiding principles: awareness, intention, action. It's why they're the guiding principles, is everything that we want to do to change for the better in our lives follows in that sequence, in that order. So what is the awareness? The awareness is, can I eat cleaner? Can I eat lighter? That's it. So we've given some pretty actionable takeaways from that. Can I eat cleaner? Like, how much crappy rancid oils, how much processed flour, and how much sugar is in this? Okay, like, can I start to eliminate that? Cool. Once I get to that level, then it's like, can I work on the sourcing of food and know where it comes from? Easy. Good. Got it. In terms of the eating lighter, can I remove dessert out of the equation? Okay. Can I skip breakfast every now and then and realize I'm not going to die if I'm a little bit hungry for one morning? Cool. Like, okay, that's the awareness. Then the intention aspect of it, to move us down the track, is tell yourself you're going to do those things. When I go to that party this weekend, I'm not going to have any of the bread that is served. I'm going to have a hot dog, I'm going to have a burger, but I'm not going to have any of the bread. You just moved up in both those categories. You eliminated some of the flour and you eliminated some of the calories. Awesome. And I'm only going to have 4 drinks across the weekend instead of what I normally do is just go there and just pop and chain drink. Is there a thing for chain? Like, there's chain smoking.
There should be. That's a thing.
There should be, right? That's what people do. Is like they put one down and they crack the next. So I'm only going to have 4, and I got to be intentional about how I have those 4, right? So that's just that. It's bringing attention to it. And then, as we talked about all the time, like, okay, you can wish in one hand and crap in the other, and you tell me which one's more real. Like, you got to actually, it's got to become real. Like, I don't care what you talk about, it's what you tolerate. I can't hear what you're saying because your actions speak so loudly. Like, you actually have to do it. Until you actually do it, we haven't really made any changes. So The cool part about that is once you do it and you make these small little promises to yourself, that carries so much weight. And be proud of yourself. If people want to know how to like get themselves from the gutter to like a productive member of society to excelling, it's nothing more than that. Make really small promises to yourself and keep them. That's it. Just that. Make them a lot. In the beginning, do what you can.
Yep.
But things like, when I get home, I'm going to hug my wife. That's a small little promise. And then when you get home, walk in the door. It's funny how hard that is to keep. It's like hard, like you driving home, you say that, it's so easy. I'm going to go home and I'm going to hug my wife. You get home and like the ego thing starts to play with you about like, well, what if she's on the phone? What if she's busy? What if she had a bad day? What if I go to hug her and she doesn't hug me back? Like there's all these like, is she going to think I'm a weirdo? Like, dude, like just start making promise to yourself. And that can lead to some massive things, some crazy things. Next thing you know, you've gone from like, when I go home, I'm going to drink 16 ounces of water when I walk in the door. 5 years later, you might be running an Ironman triathlon. Like that's the power of these little tiny marginal gains. You know, the aggregation of marginal gains. It's like the tiny little things. It's not linear. It's exponential. And you doing this 3 days in a row doesn't mean that you're three promises farther. You're so much farther. So in terms of nutrition, that's what we can all do for ourselves. Make tiny little promises and keep them. Now, it helps to know what those promises should be, right?
Yep.
So it's not like, so you're not the person that says, I'm gonna have the Nutri-Grain bar, the yogurt, the orange juice, and the bagel. Because that's working hard, trying, but actually not moving the needle.
Love that. Hammer man. That was great. Eat clean, eat light. Something to think about. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. Thank you for your ratings and your reviews. Ben and I will be back next week for another episode of Chasing Excellence.
The apple tree in Jim's garden had brought him years of joy. It had been a goalpost, a shading spot, and a hiding place.
A little pruning and it'll come back stronger than ever. It's gone a bit wild. Just a few of these taller branches and we're done.
Always ask yourself the question, are you sure it's safe? Look out for electricity wires above and below you. If in doubt, call us on 1-800-372-999. ESB Networks. Stay safe and stay clear of electricity wires.